Hello, welcome back to Learn Economia. In this video, we are going to look into the Higgs-Hansen-Samuelson ISLM transformation. For the sake of convenience, since this is a lengthy topic, what I've done is that I have divided this into different segments. The first section would be discussed in this video. We have to understand that Higgs and Hansen, they have concentrated on when formulating the simple ISLM. They say that it is actually the interaction between the real and monetary markets. From the real market, one can extract the level of income, and from the side of the monetary market or money market, we can obtain the rate of interest. And these variables, income as well as interest rate, would affect the elements in the other market, like income would be affecting the money demand and interest rate affecting the investments, etc. These kinds of interaction can clearly violate the classical dichotomy, and it does not support the neutrality of money. Financial real interaction. So this is a core aspect of the ISLM version of the Keynesian theory. As a result, he has concluded with the perfect valuation instincts. He says that it is very necessary to solve for the money as well as real market simultaneously. However, if you look, you can see that there have been many Keynesians who have argued that Keynes' system should be thought of block or sequentially, recursively, and thus should not be solved simultaneously. It could be argued that Keynesian system ought to be seen as a sequence of altering the asset markets and goods market decisions. The interest rate being the first determined by a portfolio decision in the financial market, and only thereafter we can determine the investment, output, employment, etc. in the real market, which then feed back to the another portfolio decision. These kinds of criticism is very much important to note, because portfolio decision, which we take into consideration when we go for LM approach or LM curve. This is made in the context of a stock constraint, whereas in the case of real market, which could be depicted in the form of an IS curve, this is made with a flock constraint. Richard Kahn and John Robinson, they have done several works later on, and then they could say that the simultaneous equation method with respect to the ISL model, by eliminating the sequential time, this also eliminates the time dependent concept, which they saw as fundamental to the Keynesian theory, such as uncertainty, expectation, speculation, animal spirits, etc. John Hicks has himself noted especially that these kinds of different time references, especially in the ISLM context, this makes the simultaneous ISLM model problematic. The following construction of ISLM would ignore these problems. I mean, the following in the sense we would be discussing these kinds, the new model in the coming sessions. We will be discussing a little bit in this video, and from this video onwards, including this video, we'll be having three different sessions on the same topic. In that, we'll be looking on to the Higgs-Hansen's presentation. The best place to begin, this is something which is familiar, that is income expenditure diagram or Keynesian cross, which Samuelson, Hansen, etc. made it popular. So, starting with the planned expenditure plan, that is the planned demand, we can see that YD is equal to C plus I plus D, that is income is equal to consumption, it is consumption expenditure, investment expenditure, government expenditure. Or you can see that C is a planned consumption, I is a planned investment, and G is a planned government spending. We are not taking into consideration the foreign sector here. We are assuming a closed economy. So there can be scenarios when aggregate demand is equal to the aggregate supply, but it is possible only when the planned expenditure in a period to exceed or fall below output. I mean, the difference between difference being made up by the changes of inventories. So when this happens, when the planned expenditure and planned output is different, there can be disequilibrium, and it is only when equilibrium happens the aggregate expenditure would equal the aggregate supply. So here Y is actually the current output, and this is possible for aggregate expenditure. There can be possibilities for aggregate expenditure to exceed the current output, that is YD greater than Y. And here the extra sales being made up by drawing the prior output from the inventory. Similarly, in a scenario when YD is less than Y, then the unsold excess would be there in the inventory. And here we can see that firms will react and adjust output in this kinds of situations. And the firms would be trying to maintain a roughly stable inventory and take changes in inventory as indicators of when to increase or decrease the supply. It will see how the prevailing economic scenario is going, and based on that it will be increasing its inventory, or it would be reducing its inventory by selling it from the inventories, etc. A firm which finds its inventory quickly depleting, this will increase its production because it doesn't want to stay as idle. It has to meet its orders for the next period, so it will try to increase the production. A firm which finds its inventories accumulating over the years, what happens is that if the firm is seeing that it is not able to sell as expected, it is accumulating the inventories over the years, then it would scale back to its orders for output next period, and thus the output or the production falls. So we can summarize that if YD is greater than Y, inventories would deplete, production orders would increase, and production increases. Output increases. When production increases, output increases, so income would increase. If both YD and Y are equal, inventories would be stable, production would be unchanged, output would be unchanged, income would be stable. And if YD is lesser than Y, inventories would accumulate, production orders would decrease, output would decrease, and income would fall. So these are actually considered to be the fundamental Keynesian dynamics. Output would adjust to expenditure, excess demand and supply in the goods market is met by the output adjustments. If the good market equilibrium is there, then the aggregate demand and aggregate supply would be equal, that is YD would be equal to Y. And if people are paid to produce output, then total output is identical to total income. Income can be consumed or saved or taxed, or in that sense we can see that Y is equal to C plus S plus T, where the traditional definitions are we have to take into consideration. At goods market, when C plus I plus G is equal to C plus S plus T, we can see that balanced government budget would be there, where G is equal to T. Government expenditure would be equaling to government taxation, the taxation collected by the government. Then YD is equal to Y, which means that the planned investment equals the planned savings. The equilibrium level of output is potentially any level up to the full employment level, and which level of output actually happens to be equilibrium would depend upon the aggregate demand, and so it is considered to be the primary determinant of the equilibrium level of output. This is considered to be a central point of Keynesian theory. As we all know, Keynes has given more importance to aggregate demand, and given the level of aggregate demand, the producer would be able to meet the demand, and thus aggregate output would increase, and or it would fall, or it to fall to equate the given aggregate demand. Aggregate output can fall to equate the aggregate demand. Now, the aggregate demand is itself dependent on income, basically because consumption, one of the main components of aggregate demand, depends on income. So, aggregate demand would determine output, but aggregate demand, but we cannot determine aggregate demand without knowing what output is first. So, this is actually it is a circular kind of motion happening. Output at a given time determines aggregate demand, which may exceed it or fall or set in motion the changes in output as outlined above. In the final instance, we can see that when output produces aggregate demand that matches that output, then we are in a stable equilibrium situation. So the first section is over. I'll be continuing with this topic in the next two sessions. With that, we end today. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel for more videos, and you can be a part of my Telegram group and Telegram channel to discuss your doubts. I will be providing the links of both the Telegram channel as well as the Telegram group in the description box. You can use the same and be a part of these initiatives so that you can deal with your doubts.